Testing 1, 2, 3. There's enough
Ooh.
carriers here to require you to.
He might, yeah, I think Fenrir might get overrun here. And look at that,
He
he
might.
actually activates the prismatic alignment, kills the turrets so quickly. And,
Okay, there you go. So, Miss Uber XL is not going to be scared going into a choke. She will throw it in
well,
there.
she
Unlike
is just
Chenpo. Here
gonna
you go.
gonna shove it in there. The
Oh, is there
Marines,
enough
yeah,
Marines? There
yeah,
was. And
I think
now,
there is, yeah. Yeah, and so this is the
no
problem. These are
Storm.
three Marines, right? And I think he got to the critical mass right before the 200 supply, and right there, Mrs. Uber Excel's supply just plummets.
Okay, let's see what she rebuilds with here. Because she has not made anything. She was kind of looking at it the whole time while it was dying. And
Yeah,
if she loses this. So we'll see. This is
definitely.
okay, this is the biggest Doom drop I have ever seen in the history of StarCraft 2. How many medevacs is that? And I'm assuming all of them are full.
Well,
That's 15
three-quarters are
medevacs?
full. Now, if this flies into a bunch of Void Rays and does a prismatic alignment, you'd lose all of them so
I
quickly.
don't know.
But
Yeah, I don't know. She's
here
oh,
it is.
but the
Yeah,
void
but
rays are too far. I think she got to she let him land, and that's the problem. I think this is gonna end the
yeah,
game.
yeah,
She
this
hasn't
is
even
it.
got to shoot. Oh, and she even clicks on the rocks. So there you go. Yeah, Chanpon is a different player, and so is Miss Uber XL. Chanpon has the right units with the Colossus to deal with this bio. That is the main difference, and I think for game two, Science probably gonna coach her. So it's like, hey, you're gonna need to make Colossus and then mix in whatever area you want, right? I think that's the adjustment you would need to make, because I think now for sure you're dead. And yeah, there it is. Game one.
So yeah, just like I said in the beginning of that match, Fenrir likes to just defend up, get a big ball of units, get to almost 200 supply, and then attack you with a really upgraded set of units, and then win, right? And that's exactly what happened there.
Ooh. Naked front. He's tempted to go, but he doesn't know there's a force waiting for him. Ah, he's gonna lose everything here. Ah, just get out of there. Keep fighting with your zealots. I think the zealots would have been great. Oh, he lost all of his air. That's bad. Ooh, base trade? I guess. But if he does a base trade, he will definitely lose this game. The Archaic can afford to lose a couple bases. And now it forces Little Reaper to go back. And he's definitely gonna lose that natural. Oh man. Alright, here we go. This is where we're gonna see a GG here. If the prismatic alignment is just too powerful. Look at that, it's just melting the carriers. But he is wrecking the stalkers though. He just needs to send those zealots. Send. He sends his zealots across the map. I think that would be a good call there by Archaic Crazy. Alright, let's see. Good call on the Archons. Focus fire on the stock. I mean, this Void Ray, but he needs to focus fire on the stock. I mean, Void Rays instead of the Archons. Anyways, he needs to back out. There's no way for him to win this. But then again, he's just so behind. 3 base against 1 base. So I think this is it, man. Just gonna GG in a few couple of minutes here. The Void Rays are just too much. What is the Void Ray doesn't have the prismatic? I think it's spent. Okay. Reinforcements are here. This is it. GG. Oh man. I'd love to see a game 3, but it wasn't meant to be.
This is not a well-timed attack for
Wait,
Freedom.
there's an attack in the main base here for.
He
Oh
did-
no, it's
he-
a warp prism drop.
Yeah, it killed only 3 workers, so it's insignificant. He's gonna need to recall this. Or, well, there you go. He gets nothing out of it. This
Let's
is a
get this
terrible
pylon.
start for Frieden here. You know, that just shows you it's not really a code S thing if you just know how to do it.
Yeah, because the adept shade,
Oh.
the
Mhm.
cooldown is not that long. So when you
Yeah.
get up there, you can actually shade back again
Yep.
pretty quickly.
This he keeps attacking, just killing pylons. It's not worth it, and he's so far behind now in this game.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he does have his natural getting online soon, but he's behind in every metric here.
Hey, he keeps trying to kill pylons, but you know it's donating a zealot, so it's not really a good trade. Oh my gosh, look at this Void Ray army.
Yeah, it is. But I think you can kill this with Zealot and Archons.
He doesn't
Um,
have enough of it though. That's the only
but
thing.
yeah, but he doesn't have
Oh
Zealot.
man, this is not a good attack for him. Even here, I
Ah,
just don't see it. It's like
get out of there.
he has a puny army and he's so aggressive that Maligan's probably like, what is going on?
Yeah, and look, the Archons are not even attacking the Void Rays. So, and they're he read the writing on the wall. That's it. GG.
What's up, guys? You're live. Let me bring in Seth and ET Phone Home. They'll be casting for us. And yeah, we have ET Phone Home and Seth on now. What's up, guys?
Howdy.
What's up? What's up? All right. Well, welcome to FSL Season 5. So this is the beginning of our second half of FSL 5, and it's basically it's time for the playoff push. And for those who are trying to position themselves better in playoffs, and those are still on the outside looking in, trying to get these wins, and we're gonna start out with that. But first, ET, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. Looking forward to these matches.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like every week we have some key matchup that will really pave the way for the playoffs, and that's no different tonight. We have some big games tonight. The big game is the Code S between Dark Menace and Neutrophil. Um, those two actually fought in the finals in season 4, and so this is going to be a really cool matchup. And then before that, we're going to have a 2v2 between the last year's champion Kodeo, but with a surprising, the blind leading the deft, right? With a win last time against these two players playing in Codes, Dark Menace and Neutrophil, and I'm looking forward to see what they prepared against Kodeo. What do you think about that matchup?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, Kadeo I think will be a tough opponent for them for sure. And they already made Lightning strike once, and it's pretty hard to make it strike twice. But we'll see if they can pull it off.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see that. But we're gonna start off tonight with Code A between Mighty Ant and Cyan. They're still fighting for that playoff slot. But let's bring them in. Let's have a chat with them. And joining us now are players for tonight for Code A. We have Mighty Ant, aka Sloza, and also Cyan. Let's start with Sloza. Sloza, how are you? How is your preparation for this matchup tonight, and how confident are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Tonight we got the two veterans going against each other, so that's a good thing. And preparation-wise, I've been playing all Protosses, so this should be right up my
Wow.
alley, right?
Yeah, we got a PvP tonight.
Yeah. Oh,
Cyan,
let me
did you
change
know
my.
about this Protoss switch? Have you been preparing for Terran, but now you're going to be facing Protoss? What are you thinking?
I was preparing for Terran.
I'm
I
playing
did look.
Terran. Don't worry, I'm playing Terran. I've
You
been
can
playing
play.
all.
Hey, you can play whatever you want because I went through your match history, so I've been studying that stuff and
Oh no.
seeing what your timings are and all that. So I feel pretty good tonight. And of course, the Marine Corps is going to beat the Army any day of the week.
Yeah.
All right, Itzy, do you have any questions here for our players?
Yeah, so that's it's cool to see a lot of prep coming out of Cyan there. Sloza, were you able to do any specific prep against Cyan, or just that general playing against a lot of Protoss?
Just playing a lot of Protoss. Ladder is all Protoss, and then Terran at Gold League. So
Right. Yeah.
I've had plenty of Protoss opponents, so I think that variety is good.
Yeah, and I guess I need to check with our production. Are we doing new patch, or are we still on the old one for this season?
I think the patch.
It's already
has-
out there, so
oh,
we're
you
gonna
know
have to
what?
use.
I
Let's
did
just
not
use.
check that because I saw a.
I think it like randomly flipped live without warning.
Yeah,
everyone what was happening,
exactly.
which
I
is
think
more
it's
Yeah.
live. I
about
don't
that.
even notice it,
thought so,
honestly.
but I will double check that. But I don't know if it's gonna make a difference right now.
Yeah.
I don't think Sloza is going to do a hatchery timing queen walk, so I don't think it's gonna matter right
Very true. Well, I was going to ask if y'all feel like that'll impact the matchup at all.
It's
Cyan, do you really
not.
feel like there's any major changes that'll impact PvT for you?
No, I really don't do too much Sky Toss against Terran, so I don't see that being a factor.
There you go.
Okay.
And with the, I guess with the shield batteries too, I don't like to put them down at my natural, so that shouldn't make any difference.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. And what about you, Sloza? Do you anything of note in the patch that you think affects PvT for you at all, or TVP, I should say?
Yeah, the lack of void rays I think is we've seen less, right? So that's good for us.
Right. All right. Perfect. All right. Well, that's all the questions I had, Seth.
now. Yeah, that's all I have as well. KJ, do you have any questions before we get started?
So what is the matchup? Have you decided? Is this for sure? Mighty Ant.
Looks like he's still on mute.
I'm on mute. Oh, sorry.
All right, well, you know what? We'll talk to him after the match. Talk to both of you. Good luck and have fun. We're gonna mute you, and we'll talk to you guys. Hopefully, we get 3 games, but we'll see. All right, we're gonna be started. We're just waiting for our production to join our lobby. In the meantime, I'm gonna mute our players. All right, there we go. All right, let's get started. So I'm gonna throw it back at you, ET, and take it away.
Alrighty. Well, we can go ahead and take a look at our first map as we're getting ready to start in. We got Berlingrad LE. A pretty cool map. I really like the layout of the bases and everything with that high ground natural leading to the 3rd and 4th. But we're going to go ahead and load into the game here. Welcome, everybody. We are watching.
You are watching FSL Season 5.
All right. You're starting off in the bottom right-hand side of Berlingrad LE. It is our teal Protoss player. He is
Cyan.
And his opponent with a quick SCV scout, the Yellow Terran. He is
Mighty Ant.
And by SCV scout, I guess I really mean proxy. It looks like it's going to be a single proxied barracks at the moment. Most likely just to get a quick Reaper out. Shouldn't be all too much aggression, generally speaking, here out of Mighty Ant, but we might see something nonetheless. That barracks is just about ready to drop down. Cyan sending out for a pretty quick scout is a good sign for his defense. He should be able to see that there is a proxy barracks on the map pretty quickly, which will help him a lot. And we do have double gas going down for Sloza, so perhaps something a little bit more aggressive than just a single proxy barracks. And as we see Cyan's probe will come across the map, we'll be able to see that there's no barracks. Obviously, you can't know for sure that means the barracks is on the other side of the map, but it's usually a pretty safe assumption to make, although we have seen Sloza fake proxy racks in previous series, so we'll see if that maybe tricks Cyan up a little bit. The double gas should be a little bit of a tell for him as well, that there should be a pretty quick factory coming down on one side of the map or the other. I'm going to guess the factory will be at home, just for Cyclones, I think, is a pretty common follow-up. They allow you to defend against any counter aggression quite nicely in the early game, while that Reaper scouts and puts pressure on the other side of the map. Cyan does opt for a Cybernetics core first, and actually not opting to expand just yet. Maybe going to take a somewhat hidden third? No, okay. He's just going to look for that proxy barracks, it looks like. I will say did not make a zealot, which means this proxy racks will be able to get a good amount of damage done as the unit just now starting for Cyan. Sloza, if he micros this well, could get a few probes, although it looks like he's just going to focus on his build. Factory just now going down. I would say a little bit late. He was floating a couple hundred gas and even gets surrounded by the Reaper. A great defense for Cyan here. And a great opening for Sloza that he made for himself there, but not able to capitalize on it. Messing up on the micro just a little bit. Second Reaper now coming out, but the Stalker is already out. We'll be able to put pressure on and potentially deny a natural from going down for the next little bit, but that's only if he doesn't lose this Reaper here, who runs towards his doom. We'll be able to make it away into that bunker. And Cyan, moving down to expand, will just now see that this bunker is happening. We'll be able to make the expansion anyways. I almost would have liked the bunker to just be placed a little bit forward so it completely blocks that Nexus, as one Reaper's DPS is not quite enough to kill a Nexus. And with these two Stalkers coming out, he should be able to push this back without too many issues. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, we do have a Stargate coming down, Starport, goodness, and some Widow Mines on the way. We'll be going for a mine drop, it looks like, keeping the pressure up, and he really hasn't expanded yet at all. So going to be quite aggressive in the first game is Sloza. Looks like Cyan is going to play very well against that, though. He's immediately grabbing 2 more gateways, as well as getting a Twilight Council. Should be able to get Blink, which provides a lot of utility from the Stalkers in the early game. We do have a medevac on the way out now. Second Widowmine finishing up. Should be able to get a third out. Sloza is going to need to get a lot of damage done here, as he does drop down the armory, which means without any detection, the mines will be unkillable. And as we have no robotics or forge on the way for Cyan, could be a little bit of a pain to clean up. One unfortunate thing is that Cyan's follow-up scouting has not been the best. He doesn't know right now if there's a command center on the other side of the map or not in that natural base, so he's a little bit blind as to what's going on. Luckily, it looks like he's going for pretty much the right move anyways, but this mine drop could deal big damage, and with no detection on the way, could shape up pretty badly for him here as it is moving out. Armory timed out quite nicely. Stalker's now going for the bust with the shield battery to help defend. A little bit of overkill on that one SCV, but no big deal. We'll be able to clean out the bunker, but that means the Stalkers are down to the natural now, and the Widow Mine drop is getting ready to come into the main base for Sloza. And the Stalkers are moving out to clear up the barracks, which means they'll be nowhere nearby. So it should be a pretty easy mine drop. Should definitely try and maneuver at least one mine down to the natural base of Cyan. He needs to burrow. I think misclicked on the burrow there. We saw him select the Widow Mines, but then didn't actually do anything with them. 7 kills, though. One Widow Mine still chilling. Has not burrowed yet. Should probably send that down to the natural base just so mining is completely denied until detection can be retrieved. But still good damage for Sloza, who is just now starting up his natural base. Would have liked to see that a little bit earlier, but it's not the end of the world by any means. Needs to burrow these mines. The mines will not make it down in the natural base, and that's a big win for Cyan there. He's able to continue mining out of at least one base until he gets detection up, which has not started, by the way. Really needs to get that robotics bay going down. And there we do see it. Charge going to be finishing up soon. Sloza teching into siege tanks, adding on some additional barracks. The natural base is approaching done. It was some good damage, but I'm not sure that it was enough for how delayed his economy has been here. He is still able to deny the economy of Cyan quite nicely, who's mining almost no gas, but he does have a good bank of it, so shouldn't end up hurting him too much here. Meanwhile, Sloza is just going to have to defend here. I honestly think if Blink had been researched for Cyan, he might have been able to go across the map and just straight up kill Sloza here, but went for the charge instead. Should help him a little bit later on in the game if Sloza goes for a quick follow-up push. And the robotics bay now finishing up. Should be able to get out an observer so he can finally clear out that Widow Mine in his main base. He's currently way over mining in the natural base with 25 probes. Will finally be able to get his mining evened out a little bit right around the time that Sloza's natural base finishes up as well. We do see the observer coming in now. Stalkers will move down to clear out the Widow Mine. Got to be very careful with that SimCity to not have one of your stalkers accidentally walk too close and die. Now, there's a lot of shield batteries in the natural for Cyan. And it looks like we might actually be in pre-patch, as these are finishing up with full shields, unless they reverted that change. Now, Blink getting close to finishing up. Stim and combat shields is on the way. I saw an engineering bay, but it looks like it was just used for turrets, as we don't have a +1 upgrade on the way. It makes me think that Sloza's probably not going to go for an attack super soon. Either that, or he's just forgotten it. It does start up just now, but going to be a little bit out of sync with his other upgrades if he does opt for an attack. Has up 3 barracks, a factory, and a starport. Adding on a second engineering bay. Meanwhile, we do have a robotics facility coming down for Cyan. We'll be able to get out Colossus or Disruptors with that, as he's sitting in the main base with his army, ready to defend against any sort of drop play. Sloza's Raven did move out across the map and is looking for some damage, but there is a probe there to spot. I like these little probe spotters outside his base that Cyan has set up. You can obviously also drop a pylon there that you see sometimes in probe play, but a probe does the job just as well. And 2 turrets, drops on the 3rd as well. Kills a stalker and 4 probes, so pretty nice damage there. And the Raven even makes it out almost completely free, just a little bit of damage going down. Stim and combat shields do finish up. Sloza has a big economy, but has not dropped a 3rd base, which makes me think he may just do a big attack and pull the boys with it as well. But getting some pretty major supply blocks, so that may end up hurting him if he does go for an attack here. Does have turrets in the main base to help deal with drops. We do now have Colossi on the way, a Forge dropping as well. There's a second engineering bay added on earlier, but I've not seen an upgrade come out from it yet. Perhaps not enough money when he went to go make that the first time. We do actually have a 3rd command center coming down. I think this is a little bit late, but Cyan has not opted to expand either, so it shouldn't end up hurting him too much at the end of the day. I think Cyan is very worried about mid-game pressures and just generally attacks from Sloza, as he's dropped down a lot of shield batteries. He's prioritizing a lot of army over getting those expansions up, which is all fine and dandy, but definitely does need to get a 3rd base going down in the near future, or else it'll really end up hurting him in the long run. Raven does come in, but there's 5 stalkers there. If he chooses to go in here, I think he can just barely see those stalkers. He can indeed, so should not end up losing the Raven to this unless he's not paying attention. This +1 armor is now starting up. Vikings on the way now as well, so Sloza is immediately teching over into a counter to those Colossi. Already has 2 on, and a 3rd one coming down in the near future. Extended Thermal Lance is finishing up. We do have 1 Colossus out, a 2nd one just starting up here recently. Those shield batteries are able to defend the probes here, and the Raven's going to try and make it out. Looks like it will be able to make it out once again without taking any extra damage. No kills on the probes, but just a little distraction for Cyan. 3rd base for Cyan is now coming down as the 3rd floats over for Sloza, who's still not utilizing those 2 engineering bays he made, a little unfortunately. We'll be able to find the observer here serendipitously, which is quite nice for him. There is a warp prism in the main base, sneaks past that turret. There's a good amount of army here for Sloza, though, and with only 3 zealots, well, as long as they're actually attacking. A little bit of a move command there, but should be able to clean up the zealots nonetheless. And sends his Vikings out to try and find that prism and clear it out. Looks like Cyan will be retreating back quite far with it, which is going to work out for him quite nicely. 3rd base now finished up for both players. Sloza actually opting for a quick planetary fortress on his 3rd base. Will help him if there's any big attacks out of Cyan, but could come back to bite him in the long run with a lack of extra mules there. It's +1, a little under halfway done for Cyan. A decent upgrade advantage out of Sloza here. Should definitely be starting up that +2/+2 on his engineering base, though, in the near future, to be able to continue that upgrade lead down the road. Has left a good chunk of bio and a tank in his main base, which is good. That'll help defend against drops later on, as long as they don't get F2'd away. Another little Zealot run by moving out for Cyan. Really like these backstabs that he's going for here. These are some high-level moves. He's also getting Psystorm added on. And you can tell that Cyan is definitely well-versed in the sort of meta of PvT. He knows quite well all the steps, and is going for each and every one of them. As he's got another Colossi pumping out, make it 3 now, which is a very strong number against the bio there. Seems like both players are fairly worried about the other player attacking them. They're both sitting in pretty defensive postures. Planetary fortresses, extra shield batteries, sensor towers, you name it. 4th base is going down for Cyan now. A little bit ahead of that of Sloza's, who is now getting +2/+2 as the +2 for Cyan starts up. And Psystorm well over halfway done now, adding on a second forge to start catching up on those upgrades more fully and dropping his additional gateways. It's going up to 8 gates now. And it looks like Sloza's starting to think about a 4th base. As the armies look pretty comparable to each other, there's only 2 tanks and 1 Widowmine, which worries me for Sloza. You really need that splash damage to deal against the Zealots. Otherwise, they will provide an excellent buffer against the Colossi and the Psystorms, and your bio will just get ripped to pieces. He's only got, like I said, 3 tanks now, 1 Widowmine. So definitely should be adding on more splash damage in the near future if he can. 4th base now coming down. Does scan and see the bases of Cyan. Knows exactly when that 4th base is going to be finishing up. And Sloza, I think, feeling like he needs to move out here. Funnily enough, Cyan thinking generally the same thing. And runs in with the Zealot backstab at a perfect timing, really. There is a tank on the high ground to help defend against that. Sloza's pulling all the way back. Needs to pay attention to his sensor tower and see that the main army is posturing over towards his 4th base. Will find it being built. Might even just go straight for the 3rd base, though. Sloza's pulling all his SCVs. There's so many storms in this army, though. And no ghosts out for Sloza just yet. We're about to see big storms blanketing the army of Sloza. And even the Vikings getting ripped to pieces by the bad weather. I think he's actually out of storms at the moment. There will be some more available on these High Templar momentarily. There we go. They do drop down. And a massive army supply advantage for Cyan. Absolutely killing it in this fight. His planetary is helping him hold with the siege tanks behind it, but that was such a painful fight for him. 62 SCVs falling in the blink of an eye. And he's left with just a 22 worker economy. While Cyan is comfortably sitting on 4 bases behind this. Did keep his Colossi alive, even has a couple Archons left over, so did not lose the super important units in his composition. Did lose a few High Templar, but only 5, not the worst, in exchange for 4 Vikings and 40-some-odd Marines. Quite a good fight for the Protoss player here. Sloza knows he needs to get some damage done, so he's going to go for a counter drop, but, I mean, you've got 11 gateways out, 5 more on the way. You're able to warp in 16 units at a moment's notice. It's going to be hard to get any real damage done with drops against that. Meanwhile, +3 has started up for Cyan. He does have +1 armor as well. 2-2 is done for Sloza. This one Marauder sort of warning him about the drop. He's walked after this medevac this whole time. Will kind of key or clue Cyan into the drop, which means his units are here to clean it up. We'll be able to blink on top. Medevac does narrowly make it away here. Warping in Zealots, though, to prevent it from getting any damage done. In the main base is Cyan. And +2/+1 Zealots do quite well against the bio, obviously. It does have to pull back into that dead space. Meanwhile, on Sloza's side of the map, he's just struggling to remake his economy, really. And that lack of splash damage, lack of ghosts, his army just wasn't complex enough. I feel like he did a good job of mirroring the Colossi tech, which, by the way, 3 Colossi on the way at a time for Cyan at the moment, which is pretty crazy. But he did a good job of mirroring the Colossi tech initially with those Vikings, but then did not produce any counterplay to the High Templar, and that's really what destroyed him there. 6 SCVs, 7 SCVs do go down, trying to get as much damage as he can with these Widow Mines. They're going to get cleaned up now. And indeed, all the Widow Mines do go down. It's 190 supply to 125. A pretty big disadvantage here for Sloza. This one Widow Mine, though, will get a big shot off. 5 more probes. That does help, but just not sure it's enough at the end of the day. Oh, funnily enough, Cyan didn't have any detection, but Sloza did not reburrow those other 3 Widow Mines, so they all fell. Sloza's trying to come in, but he's actually going into the position of Cyan's strength. His full army is already here. He's got 4 Colossi already out. Sorry, 6 Colossi. Only 4 of them are here, I believe. Yeah, 2 more chilling elsewhere. And there's just so much splash damage for Cyan. Big storms dropping down. There's only a couple tanks. There's just not enough area damage for the Terran player. His army gets shredded, and the army of Cyan still stands tall and strong. Blink Forward does catch the last medevac. There's only a handful of bio left on the other side of the map and that planetary fortress, but it should not be enough. Cyan will push into the third base of Sloza, maxed out against only 60 supply here. And this game really just came down to the Psy Storms. Some excellent stormage out of Cyan here, and just nothing to really answer it for Sloza. It's pretty hard to micro ghost, so I understand the hesitancy, but definitely needed those here. GG is called.
Cyan.
All right, game 1 going relatively smoothly for Cyan there. Played it carefully in the early game against that proxied barracks, and took almost no damage. Did take a good amount of damage to the first Widow Mine drop, but was able to recover, get his economy back up, and get into those all-important storms there. And it ends up paying off in spades. And it looks like our next map will be Glittering Ashes, which is another interesting map. We don't see Glittering Ashes as often. I really like the map, but you just don't. I think people veto it quite a bit. But we've seen it a couple times recently. It's a pretty interesting map. There's a lot of high grounds involved, so it's pretty good defensively. It can be kind of hard to attack on this map, as just about any time you're going to have to be pushing up a ramp.
You are watching FSL Season 5.
And in the bottom left, we're starting off here with our teal Protoss player up 1-0. He is
Cyan.
And his opponent in the upper right, the yellow Terran. He is
Mighty Amp.
So, game number 1, we see a proxy barracks out of Sloza, followed up by some hefty aggression, a bunker, a Widow Mine drop, really putting the screws to his opponent. But Cyan was able to hold. Looks like this time we'll be playing a little bit more at home for Sloza, perhaps thinking that that aggression put him a little bit behind. I think it wound up being a pretty even game post the aggression. It was just those Psy Storms, though, ripping through the bio. And the Vikings. The Colossi really didn't wind up doing much in that battle, in any of the battles, really. It was primarily those storms. As I think Sloza as well was going for a little bit too marine-focused of a composition against those storms. I know in PvT you typically make a lot more Marauders than you do in the other 2 matchups, just because they are a lot beefier against the splash damage, which is really the story of a macro PvT, is who will the Protoss be able to splash damage you, or will you be able to counter it? And that's how a lot of the fights wind up shaping out. Sloza does go for the denial with that extra supply depot on the scout. Does deny it. A little surprising that Cyan allows his probe to die there. Kind of unfortunate for that probe. But a natural base will be dropping down for Sloza. Going for the 1 gas expand. Cyan expanding pretty quickly as well. Does go for a cybernetics core first, as that Reaper is going to be coming across the map. Looking for some damage. Orbital Command now on the way. So we got that Cybernetics core nearly finished up. We'll be able to make either a Stalker or an Adept to push back against this Reaper, and Stalker will be the choice. Warp Gate coming down as well, so a little bit delayed on the tech. We'll opt to get that Warp Gate out just a little bit faster. Also allows you to put your tech down a little bit later, so the Reaper is less likely to be able to get in and scout it because you'll have units to push him back. Reaper does jump up into the main base. Stalker just about ready to push out. And they're both Mexican standoffing here. Stalker is going to try and push the Reaper back, running through the probes. I always get so nervous for Reapers when they do that. Because I know in my case, I'd just, box A-click all my probes. Lose 100 minerals of mining time to kill one Reaper. Completely worth it. But anyways, does manage to push the Reaper back. It does not die, so may be able to get a scout on the tech later. The tech being a Stargate for Cyan. And Sloza dropping down his factory now. Natural base finishing up for both players. And doesn't look like anything too aggressive coming out on either side of things. That Stargate very exposed to scouting, so should be a pretty much guaranteed scout, even if he does lose the Reaper for it. For Sloza. Hellion now on the way. We do have a reactored barracks with a bunker at the front to help defend. Dropping 3 Stargates behind the Stargate. 3 gateways. Did I say 3 Stargates? Gateways. Behind the Stargate. Generally indicates some pretty hefty aggression for gates this early on in the game. We'll have to see what he's planning on doing with that. So we have continual Marine production. Some more Hellions coming out for Sloza. He's trying to get in and scout, but it's possible that Cyan is just doing all this defensively with those 2 shield batteries. Perhaps just views Sloza as a very aggressive opponent. And so wants to be very safe against him, have lots of production. Now the Stargate, or Starport, is a little bit late. Is now finishing up, delayed it a little bit to get out those Hellions. Perhaps going to go for a Hellion drop as the Oracle is moving out across the map. Twilight Council dropping down as well. And the Hellions hiding in the main base. I expect we'll probably see a medevac come out so that he can drop those Hellions directly into the main base of his opponent. Oracle now coming in. Now, fun fact, Oracles actually take 3 hits to kill SCVs as opposed to 2 for all other types of workers. And that is primarily because Terrans have a harder time getting out enough anti-air to deal with Oracles than the other 2 races do. It was not always that way. They specifically changed the way that the Oracle's damage works to allow for that. Medevac is able to heal up these SCVs. Luckily enough, it looks like Cyan did not scout the Hellions, so Sloza able to get that sneaky little bit off. Factory swapping over to a tech lab. So we do have an engineering bay coming down as well. It's going to be bio once again for Sloza. It's pretty rare to see mech in TVP at any level of the game, really. As the Oracle was recalled home. The army is right here where Sloza is going to be trying to drop, which is a little unfortunate. Means it will be unlikely that it'll be able to get much damage done. Charge now on the way. Additional Marines coming out. Dropping his 3rd CC is Mighty Ant. As the drop is ready to go in, but we'll see if it gets any damage done with shield batteries being right here. I kind of don't imagine there'll be all too much damage happening here. Does pick up, tries to get out. Does he not have a boost? I think he does not have boost at the moment, so just barely makes it out. Unfortunately, the army was there. Still, 3 probes is a decent amount of damage for Sloza there. Does have his 3rd base coming down. Same for Cyan, whose charge is approaching, finishing up. You have that 3rd barracks dropping down. Tanks already being made, and a Raven on the way as well. We saw a good amount of damage come out of the Raven in the previous game. And more probes and SCVs coming down for both sides. Pretty even supplies all around at this point. No robotics facility on the way for Cyan. Oh, never mind. It's because it's already done. No Robo Bay, I should say. So no Colossus or anything coming out just yet for him. Sloza is going to dive in with the Hellion. Says, in a couple minutes, there will be no chance to get any damage done whatsoever with the Hellions, so should get what I can right now. Does manage to make it out with the medevac, gets another 5 S probes, so that'll be 8 probes in total for 3 Hellions. That's pretty good trade overall. Manages to put himself at a slight worker lead, but it is quite slight. Looks like he's going to go into a quick Widow Mine swap on his factory rather than going for the siege tanks. So he does flip it over to make a reactor. I think that's the right choice there. So more and more probes pumping out. The third bases are finished up for both players. Armory on the way. We got STEM, combat shields, and +1 for our Terran player. And a whole lot of add-ons coming down. 4 more gateways coming. We've got charge tech out now. No blink. It is nearly finished up, though. And now we have that Templar Archives coming down really quickly once again. Looks like he's going to go straight into Storm, or maybe Archons, skipping completely past the Colossi. At least for the moment. May circle back around for them later. Big Bioforce being built up for Sloza. Looks like he's adding on a few more Marauders compared to how many Marines he's making this time, which should help him against the Storms. So there's a lot of Zealots coming out. A lot more than the previous game. It's going to be a more bio-Protoss, so to speak, army than the previous game. And with more and more Widow Mines coming out, hopefully, he's supply block, but there will be Widow Mines soon, I promise. With those coming out, that'll be quite nice against any significant Zealot count. I think Cyan is making a bit of an adjustment that's going to kind of come back to bite him. I think he saw the lack of Widow Mines in the previous game and is now like, well, I guess Widow Mines are going to deal damage, or there won't be Widow Mines to deal with my Zealots, but Sloza's also made an adjustment and is making Widow Mines. So it's going to kind of work out in a way that'll, I think, end up hurting Cyan, as long as Sloza actually does continue producing mines, as he's hit a hefty supply block. How long has this supply block lasted? He's still not making depots. He's down 20 supply now, where he was basically even before the supply block. And he's still not making depots. I'm not sure what's going on. Okay, there we go. We have a depot on the way. Make it 2 now. That is a massive supply block. 4 depots now going down, but now he's down almost 40 supply. That might be a game-ending supply block right there. As +1/+1 now on the way for Cyan. A significant supply lead for him now that was just about gifted to him. That's very unfortunate. Sometimes you miss the audio cue and then bam. And now losing a full medevac of units as well. That's another 10 supply gone for basically free. This game is just going downhill for Sloza at this point. Very unfortunate for him. He's floating 1,000 gas and 600 minerals because of that block. Still down 40 supply, but he's moving out. Feels like he has to get damage done, but I think this is going to be a death sentence. His Storm is already finished, and there are 9 High Templar on the map for Cyan. Yeah, he's, you know, the old saying, what is it, a chicken for every pot? It's more like a storm for every Marine at this point. As there's just a massive number of High Templar out. Some of them morphing into Archons now. Actually, no, I'm sorry. He warped an additional High Templar to make those Archons. So there's still 9 High Templar. That is a crazy amount. This is a good position Sloza's made for himself, but there's just not enough units here. And yeah, Storms. Storms in D, I think is the concerto we're listening to right now. Holy cow. Pre-1-1 doesn't even matter. Storm's just absolutely blanking the army. We're now looking at a 70 supply advantage, and I think this game really just comes down to that supply block. I'm not sure exactly how long that lasted, because I wasn't paying attention initially, but I think that had to be a full minute or so of being supply blocked, which is just so painful for him here. He could have had an extra 8 to 10 Widow Mines, pretty much. Cyan pushing in, probably doesn't realize just how ahead he is, as you know, you don't necessarily expect your opponent to get that supply block. And I think we're going to see a GG shortly. An unfortunate way to lose there for Sloza. You hate to see it. It happens to all of us on occasion. You just don't hear the audio cue and you don't happen to look up to check your supply. And then a minute later, you're like, man, I thought I was better at macro than this. I have 4,000 resources at 10 minutes in the game. And GG well played is called.
Silent.
And ladies and gentlemen, that was in a 12-minute game. Mighty Ant was supply blocked for almost 2 minutes. Oh, and he can hear me. Sorry, I don't mean to smack talk you. That was
Oh, it's
part
That
of
all
the
good.
story of game 2.
that happens to me, man.
I saw you were supply blocked, and then I was casting, and I come back a minute later, and I'm like, is this the same supply block from before? And just an unfortunate way for game 2. Let's go ahead and talk to you about those games. Obviously, game 2, I think we can all pretty much say, I think you're even on supply before that block, and then after that, you're down about 35 supply. So pretty much just came down to that. Storms, though, were really another story of this series. Do you find yourself struggling against Sidestorm a lot with that bio? I know I do, but do you find that a bit of a struggle?
Yes, I do. There's no easy way to split bio, for me at least. So I'm not sure I have an answer for storms, but that's something I'll have to work on.
Yeah, I think game 1 you were doing a great job of keeping up with the tech as far as getting out Vikings at the proper time to counter the Colossi, but then just are you a little uncomfortable with ghosts? I noticed you didn't really swap into those, or did you just not realize that Storm was coming out?
Yeah, I normally don't use ghosts, but I really should. I tried to mix them in, but then it messes up my builds and it's hard for me to control. But yeah, I definitely could have used ghosts for the first game at least. Actually,
Right.
second too, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, yeah, obviously game 2 is just kind of unfortunate. I think you were making the adjustments that you needed to make, adding on Widow Mines and whatnot. But just that supply block. So not much to be said there. You had some great damage in game 1. The Widow Mine drop did quite well and looked pretty strong throughout. Just side storm and supply blocks basically is all we can really say about that one. But a good attempt. Seth, did you have any questions for Sloza here?
No, I mean I was gonna ask what the proper solutions were for all of those storms, but yeah, ghost is the way to go. But unfortunately, they are very hard to control in our level and below, and so you're just gonna have to work through it. And a lot of people just make a lot of mines, make a lot of tanks, but ghost really is the way. So unfortunately for game 2, that was that 101 supply block that lasted for about, I think ET said 4 minutes, right? And that's that's a game-ending supply block because while Cyan was just building up his forces, you got stuck, and we saw you realized it and then dropped down 4 supply depots. But by then, Cyan catapulted to about 50 supply ahead of you, and I think
Yeah,
that was the GG.
I kept looking at his army. I was like, oh, it's getting bigger. So
Yeah, but yeah, no
yeah.
no other questions for me. KJ, do you have any other questions here for Sloza?
Yeah, you asked Sloza. He's like, you're not
I
comfortable
think
with
he's
ghosts.
having audio issues. We can't hear him
Can't hear me at
right
all.
now.
Oh, great.
All right.
All right, can you hear me now?
There you go.
All right, so you had asked him if he's comfortable with ghosts. We all aren't. We're with you, Sosa. It's so hard to use. I do want to point out one thing in game 1. I think you had a great chance to be super far ahead if you had dropped the Widow Mines at both bases. You kind of bungled the 2 mines, and they didn't do anything. And if you had dropped them, he had no detection forever, and that would have been his version of supply block for a long time, more like a mining block. And I think you would have won that game pretty handily, right? Just because you just weren't able to drop it. So that was so close. So anyway, just minor things like that. It was kind of interesting to see. I was like, oh, you're so close to getting super far ahead.
I thought I clicked on Burrow, but I guess I must have missed it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I noticed that too, actually. Yep.
Yeah, it was so close.
Yeah, it was just like 1 second off that if you got them burrowed, they were going to be cloaked, and I think you would have been really far ahead.
Yeah.
But, such as
those are what happens.
But congratulations to Cyan getting that 2-0, solidifying his position for this playoff run. Lots of AoE. That's a really good tactic. Was that what you were preparing for today?
Yeah, so when I looked through his match history, he did, just a lot of marine heavy stuff, with a tank or two, something like that. He never went into really anything other than that. And I totally forgot about Widow Mine drops at the start, so that's where I, lose all my probes at the beginning of the game 1. And I almost did it in game 2, but it just felt better. And I watched a couple of videos from Winter that said, don't do too much. Just build your stuff, survive the first attack, keep building, and then go.
Yeah, and you got to maxed out supply really quickly, and as soon as you got that, you started moving out. But those storms were really key, right? Because the first battle in that first game, I think you blanketed his storm twice over, and I think there's just the two tanks remaining after that. But that was a really good game plan, and good execution. So, ET, do you have any questions here?
Yeah, I was basically just going to ask. I guess it seemed like you really leaned hard into the High Templar in particular over the Colossi in terms of splash damage. Were you kind of aware of his uncomfortableness with Ghost? I know you said you didn't really swap in, but I know with build orders, I think they only go out to about minute 5. Were you aware generally that he doesn't like to make Ghosts too much, so you really leaned into the Storms? Because that was a lot of High Templar, I think.
Yeah, I think just like KJ said, at this level, a lot of people don't play Ghost. They just they can't control him with everything, and I think even if he did have Ghost, I think I'd still be okay. If I did see the Ghost, then I'd probably go more Colossus heavy than I would Templar heavy. Um, but I've always loved Storm. It's just so much fun to play.
Well, maybe for you, but well, congratulations, very well played overall. But no, a great play overall. I think you did a good job of cleaning up the various different aggressions. I mean, that was a lot thrown at you in game 1, and you handled it like a champ. So, good luck in the rest of your series, and I think well played overall.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, guys. Good luck.
Yep. Good luck. Good games.
All right.
GGs.
All right, so let's
Hmm.
maybe we can take a quick break.
Yeah, let's take a
yeah.
just I'll do the intros for the players, and then we'll come back. Couple minutes, guys. We'll be there with you guys.
Be right back.
All right, we're back, and let's bring in the players, guys. So we're gonna bring in the blind leading the deaf and Kodeo. So there you go. They're on the stream now. Let's see if we can bring him in the stream channel. All right, we're back. We got all the players here on the stream. Welcome, guys. Hello.
Welcome. 2v2. One of my favorite games to spectate and to just watch, and I'm so glad that ET is casting so I can just chill and listen and enjoy the show. But we have a pretty cool game here. The last time we saw the blind leading to death, they had a really major upset and a well-prepared build, well-prepared timing that they toppled GG Izzy. So the question of the day is, are you guys ready for the champ from last season? And do you guys have anything prepared?
I wish we could say yes, but sadly we don't have it. No, nothing super exciting.
Yes. Yes, we're going to be very boring today. That's our game plan.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't blame you if you don't want to reveal any hands here right now, because here's Kodeo here is coming off a loss against GG Izzy, which you guys defeated, and so right now they are kind of on guard. But ET, do you have any questions here for the blind leading the deaf?
Okay, let's see. So I guess, how do y'all feel about like, have you been able to watch Kadeo's games? How do you feel about like their play style, how they're going to match up against the way you guys play? Do you think you're in an advantage there? Do you feel kind of uncomfortable against the styles they bring?
I don't know if we have an established play style. So maybe that counts as an advantage, I think it kind of depends on how well we play. And yeah, I think that's what it comes down to.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's all the questions I had.
AJ, do you have any questions here?
So you guys saw Kodeo lose to GG Izzy, who Sep said you guys did beat. But did that give you any ideas? And if it did, you don't have to tell me, of course. It's just a yes or no question, and any other side comments you want to tell us.
I did watch those games a little bit, and they were really fast games, and so it's really hard to extrapolate a lot from those. But definitely afraid of they can bring a lot of aggression, and that's pretty scary. So be looking out for that.
All right. All right, so
Nice.
let's move on to Kodeo. Kodeo, last time we saw you guys, it was unfortunately a loss against GG Izzy. How do you feel about tonight's matchup, and do you guys think you guys are prepared for today?
Well, with Kodeo, I think the it's we're trying to pretend that we didn't actually give a lot away during our GG Izzy game, but I mean, I think everyone that's playing in FSL already kind of knows what Kodeo's deal is. So, I mean, that's one of our disadvantages, I think. But maybe through some really good teamwork and communication, we can bring a win. So I'll be trying to make that happen.
Right. ET, do you have any questions here for Team Kodeo?
Well, I guess, it's kind of hard to prep against a team who's only played 2 matches and they were both entirely different matches from the previous ones. There's not a whole lot to work off of. Did you really plan anything specifically for them, or is it just kind of sticking to your general game plan and just trying to execute better?
Yep, just better execution, I think, is going to be the key here. Because yeah, we already know what Deaf and Blind are capable of, so we'll be looking out for that, definitely.
All right, perfect. I think that's all the questions I had.
I want to
AJ?
ask the Archaic. The Archaic, you like to go air. You like that style, right? I don't think you've deviated from that style, but is that because you really enjoy it, or it just works well with the lurker style that Regret brings?
I can't say I don't get bored of air sometimes, but sometimes I do enjoy it, and it does work well with our plan and macro.
Cool.
All right.
I have a question for ET. This is a tiring, gig we're doing here. You're casting. Sometimes you're alone. Are you like Wardy, who likes to cast alone, or do you need some help and get things settled? Because I'll join you on this 2v2 if you want.
You can join. I've pretty much always solo casted. I remember the first time I ever duo casted, it was this random lady streamer, and about halfway through, she was like, "Have you ever casted with someone else before?" Because I kept talking over.
Oh, I see. Yeah, and this is what I do with you. I'm just gonna get in there and I was like, hey, I want to say this. So that's a feel, the give and take feel thing. And if you don't have the right person, that other person will just be quiet, and then you'll take over. So if you're good with that, I think I'd like to contribute. So let's do this. Let's have fun, because I'm excited to see what the blind leading the deaf have in store for the formidable Kodeo. So this is going to be a lot of fun for all of us.
All right, and let's just start the fun. You guys can go to your respective channels. We're not gonna mute and deafen you, and we'll talk to you guys after the match. Good luck.
Hey,
All
do
right.
you mind to move me?
Oh,
My
sure.
whole pad is really slick. Sorry.
No worries. We'll do it. No worries. Okay. All right. So, let's show the maps, ET. I'm really psyched for this.
Well, to let you in on a little bit of insider information, they kind of weren't lying. We haven't had nearly as much time for them to prep this time around, and we were all pretty busy the last couple weeks. So we've tried a couple little things, but I think they're mostly going to be sticking to like a general kind of a mix between what we saw against y'all and what we saw against GG Izzy. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm excited either way. It should be a pretty cool match.
Yeah. So I guess predictions. I'm thinking a 2-1. I think they'll take a game at least. They, upsets are great, but I'm gonna say 2-1 Kodeo.
Yeah, I think I'll have to agree with you there. They haven't lost a series flat out yet, so hopefully we won't see that this time around. But anyways, we can go ahead and enter the players. In the bottom right-hand side of the map, we've got the teal Zerg player. He is. And his ally in the purple, he is.
The Archaic.
Together, they are.
Team Kodeo.
And the team we like to watch, the newcomers who's making a splash on the top left, the Terran.
Chomli.
And his partner,
Rex.
they're called.
The blind leading the deaf.
All right. So standard, right? I mean, the Archaic loves to probe scout, no matter what.
Yeah, I think it's pretty essential, especially in 2v2s. The snowball power of cheeses is all the stronger in this matchup. So it's very important to have a scout going out. And yeah, he's able to see everything that's going on. This time around, there isn't much of anything going on. Everyone's going pretty standard, just about mirrored, except there's a Protoss and a Terran, so they're not quite mirrored, but pretty close to it.
Yeah, when there's
I
a
feel
Zerg,
like-
you gotta go in there, I think. You gotta find out if they're 12 pooling you.
Yeah, you can get across the map with a big number of units so fast as Zerg. You got to be ready for it. And I personally think that 2v2s need at least a Zerg to be the most interesting. I feel like Protoss and Terran get a little bit too turtly. You have to have that Zerg in there to kind of throw things off. So it's good that we have two of them in this matchup, as we actually have a proxied pylon coming down for the Archaic on the other side of the map.
Oh, Stargate. I'm, pretty sure, right?
Yeah, I would expect so. He does have a second gateway, so it might just be a 3-gate build. Yeah, it looks like it will be a 3-gate. He's posturing around. Yeah, okay, so he's going for 3 gateways. He might drop a Stargate as well. It could just be pure, like, stalker aggression, though.
That's scary.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of Lings coming out for Regret as well. So it looks like they're going to be the aggressive players in this situation. We have a 2-on-1 coming out of Chumley. And then Rex is opting for just Ling speed and a third base.
Yeah.
Chumley trying to get a bit of a scout off. Does see one Stalker and some Lings, but that's not really going to tip you off that much is going on. Oh. I think just
he spotted it.
The Lings are spotted. Okay.
He knows.
Well,
Rex.
that's an important scout, but whether or not it's going to matter...
Oh man, and she just made some drones too. This is gonna be tough. No bunker in sight. No.
Yeah, I think
choke.
they're not thinking that this is an all-in. Maybe I think they've misread it a little bit, or don't realize that that's way more Zerglings than they have any right to make. We do have 12 Lings now.
Oh
on the way.
no,
The Lings do catch the Queen. The Marines are also going to get caught out, and the Zerglings are not helping the Marines. They really need help them there. Oh man. This
They
is
were
starting to
in.
go really poorly, really quickly for the blind leading the deaf. They do have a Baneling nest coming down, does Kadeo as well. Catching them in the choke is nice, and I feel like the Archaic is hitting a little bit late here. A lot of Lings did go down for regret before the Stalkers made it to assist. And with Defender's advantage, that might be enough to pull off a defense here, especially if the Stalkers get surrounded by the Lings.
It's
Okay,
a
do
lot
manage
of
to pull back.
stalkers. Just
Yeah,
not
there's
a
gonna be
whole lot, man, from Terran. That's the problem.
Yeah, I feel like, in my personal experience as well, trying to defend early on as Terran is really tough. It just feels like you don't have enough buildings to make units. You really have to kind of lean on like bunkers and things like that, and that's hard to
Yeah.
do in 2v2s because there's way more space
Oh
that you need to
man.
cover. Banelings are now moving in. The blind
No!
the Def do manage to kill a lot of the Banes there with the Widow Mine, but the Zerglings are now cornered. Although, one of the Banes does go off on some Larva. Big Baneling hits, though, for Kadeo. They're pushing into the natural base now. I think they're going to clean up, and it's not looking very promising for the blind leading the deaf in this game number 1.
Yeah, and that's a hole. That's not really a wall. And he finally, well, he's not even close. Never mind.
Curse you, wall. All right, well, it looks like, yeah, they're going to be able to push up in a strong initial attack out of Kadeo here. And, yeah, I think if they just made a bunker after you see those initial Lings, that might have made all the difference. But instead, Kadeo's going to be able to push in and clean up game number 1. GG's called.
Yeah. Personally, when I play Terran, I like to put a bunker anyway.
Yeah, I think it's pretty common in PvP to do it, not so much in the other matchups as well. But definitely if you're up against Protoss, in order to deal with those Stalkers, you kind of need it. But a very well done all in there. I think they did a pretty good job of keeping it hidden up until as late as you really could hope for, unless you're just hoping that your opponent is going to enter their Reaper and lose it for nothing.
Yeah, the Reaper did its job, right? I mean, it's spotted just enough that there seems to be a lot of links. So that's a tip. Ideally, it can stay alive and then go all the way in and see the commitment, right? But it's hard. It's hard to expect that from the Reaper when they're speedlings. Was it speedlings by then? No, it can't be, right?
No, they were still slow, but you see about 12 of them. I think they
Yeah.
definitely underreacted. I think you should drop at least a Spine Crawler and start making Lings there.
Yeah.
Especially when you see that Stalker just moving out on the map like that. Like, worst case scenario, you make 10 to 12 Lings, and then they haven't pushed in, and so then you make a few more drones,
But hey, if they had a bunker, it would be a different story too, because those 2 Marines would not die, and then you can reinforce and repair, right? So I think that would they had a good chance to hold it. I think if they had a bunker. So in team games, especially at this level, I prefer. I mean, you saw my games. I always make a bunker and a tank, and then just like survive that first. That's just my tip, my personal tip.
Yeah, I think it's a really good strategy. Something we see a lot from a lot of the more successful teams, I think, is a player that plays super defensively, kind of like you do, and then someone who either does a lot of aggression or macros up really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like the one that comes to mind for me is Hyper Turtle in Warband, I believe it is.
Yes.
Where Hyper Turtle kind of keeps everybody back while his teammate gets up to a late game army. I think that's a really strong strategy that you can do. So, but you have to have someone that can do that. Nonetheless, we're hopping into game here, and we do have in the bottom left-hand side our purple Protoss player. He is
The Archaic.
And his teammate in the teal, he is
Rex.
Whoops, that's not him. There you go.
Regret.
And together they are
Team Codeo.
Top left,
Chomley.
and on his right,
Rex. The blind leading the deaf.
so we'll see. What will they do this time? Will they be wary of a rush like that? Because, they were not expecting, a really... I think that's a commitment. It's almost like an all-in, right? You don't normally expect that from Codeo.
Yeah, we're seeing a little bit of funkiness going on for Chumley. He's proxying a barracks, and then he went to send out 2 more SCVs to the proxy, but they got seen by the probe.
Oh.
So a little bit unfortunate. Assuming the Archaic was looking, he should know that there's some big aggression coming their way, as there's a 3rd SCV heading out onto the map as well. It is a Hatchcat's pull for his teammate, so maybe a little bit, just bank up some Marines and then kind of go in with Speedlings. But it looks like they're definitely looking to be more aggressive here. We don't have an expansion out of the Archaic. I think that's pretty much always their game plan. We get a quick expansion out of Regret, and then the Archaic just goes for a 1 base attack with Regret going with a 2. Pretty often, at least. Overlord, it looks like, is scouting for the barracks. I think they know that they're out there somewhere. Whether or not they see them, though, is the question.
I
It
don't
is going to
think
be
they
at
will.
4 racks.
Yeah, I love it. This is the build they did against GG Izzy.
Yeah, it wound up working out there. I think in part because their opponents were also looking to be aggressive, but they were looking to be... if you have 2 people that are looking to be aggressive, a lot of times it's the players who are aggressive first that win.
Yep.
Just because aggressive players are usually about
Archaics.
just being super greedy into attack.
Look at this follow-up scout. I mean, this tells you everything you need to know. No barracks, no gas. You know at this point it's a proxy racks.
Yep, and Regret's making a spine crawler. He's making queens and lings, not even making ling speed. He's just pumping out as many units as he possibly can.
Yeah, good read.
Yeah, I think we need to see some shield batteries for the Archaic. I'd imagine we'll see some of those soon, but those would definitely really help here against the Marines.
Oh, she's gonna lose her Overlord.
Yeah, the Ling's now coming out across the map. Is going to get supply blocked, though, and no extra Overlord on the way.
Yeah, that was pretty crucial. Let's see if that makes a difference. They absolutely know what's up.
Yeah, they're even looking for the Marines. Honestly, if they find the Marines, that might wind up hurting Regret more than otherwise. Yeah, loses a lot of Lings for free here.
Yep.
But does see exactly what's going on now. But the Lings of Rex will have speed far before those of Regret. He unburrows the spine crawler. That actually really helps him here. As the Lings go in, they got to try and dive on that spine. His spine is not running, but it's not very helpful in that position. The Lings do get a full surround on the queen as well, and I think that might actually be the impetus that might turn this into a win. There's only 1 Stalker, now 3. Okay, they're trying to just bypass the shield batteries, which I think is a pretty good choice here, at least until that battery overcharge runs out. Then I think you really need to dive on top of the Protoss before they get too many units up. Just going for the natural base of Regret at the moment, but I think that's a mistake. You really got to have the killer instinct here, I think, in this situation.
I don't mind it too much, just because... Oh, but they have to fight together, though, and they're not.
Yeah, that's very true. Is draining the shield batteries quite quickly. Baneling's morphing, but they're going to be too little too late, I think, actually, as those Lings would be better off fighting right now. All the shield batteries are drained. Oh, but that's a lot of Banelings about to pop! No!
No splits! Man. 0 splits!
Oh, no. I think targeting the Stalkers is actually a mistake there. You need to target down the Zerg units because they're not getting healed. And then you can worry about the low DPS Protoss units the rest of the time. Still, though, there's very little production out for Regret. He's only got 1 hatchery up, which means he does not have as many larvae as Rex, who is expanding now, going into a lair. But a lot of Chumley's Marines being found for free here. This group up actually could find the units of the Archaic. He should not be out on the map. It should be the Speedlings looking for damage, not really vice versa. Trying to keep these SCVs and Marines safe as they do run home. We do have a command center, so it's going to be a little bit of an even scenario. I think it really will be quite an even scenario. There is charge, though, so that may throw a wrench in things for the blind leading the deaf.
Yeah, charge is scary. No command center done yet. The second one is, what, halfway? Tricky, man.
Yeah, I think it really came down to... I think, yeah, you just need to target down the Zerg units because they're not going to be affected by the shield batteries. And it's about eliminating damage per second for your opponents, right? And you can kill the Zerg units a lot faster than you kill the Protoss, and then you just fight the Protoss by themselves.
Personally, I would have just went...
targeted down.
I would have went past this shield batteries and went up and do damage with the Lings.
You probably could have done that as well, but I think even if they just target down the Banelings there, I think that's game, you know?
Well, here it goes.
Yeah, a lot of Banelings coming in.
Oh no, he's pulling down the drone!
I mean, you don't have too much of a choice. Do manage to kill them there, but I think, yeah, it's going to be too little, too late. Oh, and the Marines just kind of stood up on the top, didn't even help the Lings fight. That's very unfortunate.
I think they had enough if they fought together.
Yeah, I think so.
So I thought they had this in the bag, minus the the unfortunate Baneling perfection that we saw. Like it
Yeah,
wiped out the whole army.
yeah. I mean, if those 15 Marines or however many it was don't die to the Baneling there, or the Banelings there, then it's pretty much a one game. But it's a slight micro mistake. It's hard to know. I imagine they don't run into that scenario all too often. So a little bit unfortunate. Good split offs by Rex, actually.
If she can save this base, they have a chance.
Oh, but big Baneling hit. I think that's going to be game right there.
Oh, so close. That was a good plan that they had. They just needed to execute a little better. It was so close.
Yeah, they definitely, you could tell they had a conscious decision of we're going to target the Protoss units there. I think it was just, unfortunately, the wrong decision, but they did have a plan there. It just didn't wind up working out. And from here, I mean, the Archaic has been probing up this whole time. 40 workers for him and 31 for his teammate. I do like the decision to fly over to the gold base.
That's a good one.
Rocks protecting. But I don't know that it'll be enough. Oh, and there's a Void Ray, so it definitely won't be enough.
Yeah, they barely have anti-air.
Oh, wait, why is he's shooting the rocks with the Void Ray? I think he just killed the mules here. It won't matter, I don't think, at the end of the day.
Yeah,
I think too much for their opponents, but... Yeah, I think it really just came down to not target firing on the Banelings there in that assault. Close, though. They made it as close as it can get without outright winning.
Yep. And team games can be this fast, man. And when each side does some sort of super aggressive build, right?
Yeah, it can go by very quickly. It's very volatile. The snowballing effect of like losing your army is, way bigger whenever there's two armies on the other side of the map coming for you instead of just one. So
yeah, two armies and two different types of armies, which is kind of cool to see in team games. Well, they didn't actually take care of the gold just yet. I think they were scared of killing it and then getting trapped.
Yeah, I mean the gold being up is nice for them, but it's not like Kadeo is like fully committing to killing them here. They are both up on 3 bases now. We're getting fleet beacon out, some extra stargates. They'll be able to go into carriers. So it's almost like the two teams are playing 2 different games at this point, where the blind leading the def is still in the early game stage where you're just trying to defend against an all-in.
Yep.
But it's not actually an all-in, and Kadeo is just playing the mid-game where they're on like 3 bases and they're maxing out. And so it's going to be a pretty big disparity as time goes on. We do have Roaches out now. It should be able to help against the charge lots, but still on 1 base for Rex, so
yeah,
a little unfortunate here.
Technically, they're still got a chance, but it's really low.
Yeah, it's very slim.
It's like they need that royal flush, right, if this was poker or something.
Right, absolutely. Oh, and I mean, regret even teching into the Roaches. A good choice here for him. I mean, there are a lot of charge lots, and there are some Widow Mines out, which may help, but the Lings pull the Widow Mine shots. They don't manage to pull them onto the Marines, but even keeping them away from the Zealots is the most important part. With the Void Rays coming in and some Banelings rolling on top of those Marines, there's not really any anti-air anymore for these 4 Void Rays, and they'll be able to push on through. Take out, I think, the blind leading the def, and GG is called.
All right, we're back. Very aggressive games for both of you, right? Let's go ask some questions. This is the best part, right? Because then we want to know what goes into the minds and the strategies and what you wanted to do versus what really happened. So maybe we start with the blind leading the def. Game 1. Did you know there was an all-in coming for you, or you just kind of thought it was pressure? Chumley, you had the Reaper, so.
Yeah, I think I thought it was just pressure at first until they got like halfway across the map, and then Rex said, "There's like a billion things coming." So,
yeah. Got it. I was telling the chat that me personally, because I play Terran in this league on the 2v2, that I just don't trust what I see sometimes. I'm like, I'm making a bunker. I can always salvage it if I need to. So is that something that kind of goes in your head, or you just really fully optimized in your build that you're like, nah, I don't want to slow me down?
It probably should be something that I do, especially in that situation where I kind of just lose the Reaper because I'm bad. But yeah, it's something I haven't done yet and probably should if I was
Ah,
smarter.
your Reaper did enough, right? It scouted some suspicious stalkers and quite a few links. I think it did its job. Um, it just didn't scout the follow up to survive long enough to for sure say it's all in. So that's such a fast thing, right? Game one, and I don't blame you guys for missing that. It can happen. You didn't get a chance to get it up there and defend. Because if you defended, you'd be way ahead. So that's one of those things. It's almost coin flippy, right? But um, Rex, game two, you guys had a great chance. Tell us what happened.
Game 2, well, to be honest, in game 2, I was supposed to go pool first, and then I forgot to, of course. So that happened. And then, I don't know, I just was going to be behind on the link speed and everything else from there on out. Plus, I'm so bad at microing against banelings. It makes me want to cry, but obviously they outplayed us, so that's really what it boils down to.
Well, you guys had a chance though, because it was that monster Baneling hit that really ended the push. Because I think if that didn't happen, I don't know, Et Sep, you guys agree? I think they would have just snowballed and pushed in and won the
Uh,
game. That was
that
just
Yeah,
was
it
such a
definitely looked
perfect
that
hit.
way.
That was just one of those things. It went the wrong way for you with the Banelings, right? So, but
yeah, they're tough for me anyway.
yeah, I agree. I plays my main is Zerg, so I know what that's like. But yeah, the both games, is one small thing here or there. The thing with these regular season, right, Seth? It's only a best of three, so we didn't really get to a game where you guys both weren't too injured to go to the next level of fights, right? So I'm looking forward to the best of fives come playoffs. So this is a good taste, right? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think we definitely expected the aggression and just really weren't prepared for it. But I am excited to play some longer games, and I think it's some given because we were definitely pretty aggressive the second game and it just didn't go our way that time. So
Yep.
games all around.
All right, Seth and ET.
Yeah, well, I think they were, like what you said, they were just one Baneling hit away in that second game from snowballing that. Because unfortunately, those Banelings were morphing right next, point blank next to the Marines. And as soon as they finished, it just exploded the 12 Marines that were there. But if those 12 Marines survived, I think you guys snowballed that and could take that game 2 victory. But when that explosion happened and your aggression was stopped at that point, what was the conversation like in terms of Plan B and what are you guys trying to put up? Hey, what are we doing now? What do you guys start talking about at that point?
Well, Chumley, what did you say exactly? He just said, "Oh, hey, all of my Marines died," and I said, "Didn't you see the Banelings?" And he had not. I didn't say because they were on screen, and I was like, "There they are. We'll better have to avoid them." And then I guess he didn't notice.
Well,
um,
let me ask you there real quick. Isn't he the deaf or the blind? He's the blind on the blind leading the deaf, right?
Yeah,
he is the
Yeah,
blind,
there you
so
go. So there, that
I should have
explains
told
it.
him,
Yes,
obviously.
yes.
But yes, and so then I was like, well, I'll drop a Roach Warren, and then I didn't, because I didn't have the gas at that
Yeah.
moment. And he said they're gonna come across and kill us, and I said, yeah, and that was really it. I made some spine crawlers, and I don't know. We're just not very good once we're losing. I don't know what else to say.
Got it.
ET?
Man, I mean, it went by pretty quickly. So it's there's not a whole lot to talk about. Let's see. Yeah, I can't think of anything. I think we covered it pretty well. Quick games. The Baneling hit in game 2 really kind of decided it, I think. And yeah, but a good try overall, I would say for sure.
Yep, we didn't get to see the full strength just yet, right? So, looking forward to seeing you guys play again. And yeah, so congrats to Kodeo winning a good one here. What are your thoughts, Dark Cake? Tell us something. What did you notice in that game, in the games?
Oh, for game two, as soon as I scouted and saw USCVs like just going out of the base, I like I just basically screamed. I was
You just screamed.
yeah, and then I immediately okay, I'm gonna put down 2 batteries immediately.
Nice. Regret, man, when you made that Baneling hit. What did that feel good? I mean, you felt like
I
tempo, right?
mean, there was a lot of build up. I mean, especially in the first game, we were planning to do an all-in, and I was busy microing my overlords or something, and then I ended up behind on my build order. My gas was late, my pool was late, and the archaic was screaming at me because I messed up my build order. And we almost lost 2 because of that. If I had put down my Baneling Nest any later, I think that would have just been game over because of the nice rush that definitely blind did. But um, I was like, it was just in time. It's kind of scary. But I'm glad I made it.
Yeah, I mean,
Nice.
that was really close because we keep talking about that Baneling hit, but it's funny because there's that one stalker that was tanking all the hits, and when the Banelings morphed, the batteries were actually out of juice. The stalker's about to fall, and then the Banelings just morphed in just at the right time. So it was like the worst case scenario for Death leading the blind at that point. But that's the difference between the win and the loss a lot of
Some.
times. So,
Yep.
ET, do you have any questions here for Kodeo?
Well, like I said, it was pretty straightforward overall. I mean, yeah, obviously getting the scout with the probe, very good scouting there out of the archaic, good consistency on that in all the matches I've seen from y'all. So very well done overall, and catching those SCVs out. But yeah, I think that's all I really had to say about it. Very well done overall.
All right. Well, that'll do it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And Seth, that what happens to the let's see, what's the standings,
Standings?
right? Let's take a look at the
Yeah.
standings real quick because that was, I think that was a important match, right?
Well, it is. Kodeo does get their 3rd victory of the
Mm-hmm.
season. This drops the blind leading the deaf to under 500 to 1 and
Mm-hmm.
2. So they're gonna have to win the rest of their games. But they did have one of the harder schedules to start it off.
Oh
Right? They
yeah,
started
that's true.
right. The 3 games that they played Little Dom, right, which they lost 1-2,
Mm-hmm.
and then they played Gigi Izzy, which they won 2-0. And then they come back and turn around and play the defending champion, Nikodeo.
Oh
So those
yeah,
3
yeah,
games are the toughest that you can get, for a newcomer team
yeah.
such as
Right
the
off the
Blind
bat,
Leading Depth.
that's a
But you
good
know what?
point.
The rest of the games, I think that's based on what we've seen. I think it's very winnable for them. And so
Yep.
if they just control the games themselves, I think they'll be fine.
Okay. Cool. Cool. All right. Well, there you go, guys. And what do we got here? What's the
All
next
right.
one?
So primetime match of the night would be our Code S, and it's going to be a rematch from last year's finals between Dark Menace and Neutrophil. And you know what? Let's bring them in here so we can chat with them. All right, joining us now, we have defending champion, 2-time champion Neutrophil, and the #1 seed from last season, Dark Menace, which are going to be facing off against each other. So my first quick question here for Neutrophil. Are you going to be playing straight up random, or are you going to be playing random but picking your races?
I'll probably end up picking my races, but for the first game, I'm gonna go random.
Full random. All right, nice. And what about you, Dark Menace? I know this guy has been a thorn on your side for the longest time. How confident are you tonight in trying to beat him here?
Not very confident, because he knows exactly how I play, so I think he's gonna know what I'm gonna do.
Okay. ET, do you have any questions here for our players?
Yeah, so I know a lot of people tend to struggle against random, just like how to play against all 3 races individually, but trying to do it all at once on the fly is pretty tough for people. Do you find yourself pretty uncomfortable against random players, Dark Menace, or does it not really matter to you much?
I mean, I don't think it really matters.
Okay. All right, and I guess Neutrophil, you're probably feeling pretty good going into this, having won the previous series. Do you feel like you have to maintain the win streak to maintain face, or are you just feeling pretty calm going into it?
I really don't care how this game's gonna go. I think I'll still have a pretty high standing this season, so it's just for fun, I guess.
Alrighty. Well, that's all the questions I had.
AJ, do you have any questions? Final questions before we get started?
You guys have any side bet going on this game? Whoever wins, because this usually happens, right? Some sort of bragging rights thing.
No, we're just here for fun.
So it's all
Alright,
about the
there you go.
playoffs. Yeah, it looks like it's all about the playoffs for them. So it's here. It's just a game. They don't want to reveal too much. They
That's a
just
good
wanna
point.
play.
That's a good
Yeah.
point. Yeah. You don't want to
Because
show.
you can go 2-0 here, but then if you go 0-3 in the playoffs, it won't mean much, right? So
That's true.
but at the same time, you want to get these wins. I think we talked about it with ET the last time. Having a #1 seed compared to anything lower is a big difference, because the #1 seed, you get a very easy bracket, as opposed to if you get to the 2, 3, or 4 seeds, you're gonna be duking it out against those 2, 3, or 4 seeds as well. So this is an important game in terms of seeding. Might not be important as Neutrophil said, but I think it is important. We'll see how they fare. Any final thoughts? Any final words, Neutrophil, Dark Menace, before we get started?
Good luck.
Likewise.
All right. Good luck. Have fun. We'll talk to you guys after the match. All right. Let's mute our players here. All right. I think looks like we're ready. I'm gonna throw it back to ET to cast this. It's kind of a big game, but they kind of playing it down. What do you think about that, ET?
Yeah, I mean, well, what's interesting here is if Dark Menace manages somehow, which will be difficult, to 2-0 Neutrophil, then you've got you've got Instability 2-0ing Dark Menace, who 2-0'd Neutrophil, who 2-0'd her, and so it kind of comes down to the other players really who gets first place at that point, because it's not going to be a head-to-head kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And you're gonna have to factor in Freedom in that matchup as well, and then also Sir Maligan. But the game has started. Can't wait to just sit back and watch this game.
All right. Well, we're here in the upper left-hand side of the map. We've got our orange Zerg player. He is
Dark Menace.
And his opponent in the bottom right, the green Zerg, he is
Neutrophil.
So already an interesting sort of somewhat serendipitous start. Oh my goodness. Are they just trying to out... They're having an extractor trick competition, it would appear. Dark Menace countering the 2 extractor tricks of Neutrophil with 3 of his own. Chad gamer moves. But we'll have I'd say this is a fairly good start for Dark Menace. Neutrophil said he might swap into picking races later on. So, you would hope that the one time he does go random, he doesn't get his best race, and he has managed to achieve that. Neutrophil has also complained in the past about how he only has 1 build for Zerg, so he's kind of worried about people starting to counter that. We'll see if he has developed into anything else now, or if he's going to go for that yet again. Dark Menace has gone for a drone scout to try and get as much information as quickly as possible about his opponent's race, and is going to go ahead and try and block the gas for Neutrophil. I think a Hex is too high to actually be able to do all too much in terms of blocking the gas mining, but will help somewhat at the very least. Now, from what I remember about Neutrophil's Bane Bust, this does look like a pretty much identical build to that, as we've seen it in the past. And yeah, you can see actually almost no change in the mining, I would say, from those drones. So a little unfortunate there, to be sure. Now, the natural bases are finishing up for both players. Neutrophil a little bit ahead of Dark Menace. And they're both making their queens as well. Neutrophil adding on a second gas geyser very quickly, so perhaps going to go for some sort of roach attack. I don't think you typically see banelings out of this, as one gas is more than enough for a low baneling or lone drone count baneling all in. We do have Lings on the way for both players. Dark Menace going to be looking to scout. Definitely wants that information. I assume he'd feel pretty advantaged in his EVZ typically. So he wants to make sure he doesn't get caught off by anything too surprising. And cosplaying a little bit as Slozo at that supply block is starting up an Overlord now. Definitely a little bit painful there. Well, I'm curious to see if he actually does micro the broodlings that come from this Evo chamber or not. As interestingly enough, Neutrophil did make a second gas, but he has not filled it yet, and starts up a lair and then immediately cancels it. Goes and makes a Roachhorn instead, but then pulls back and doesn't make the Roachhorn. So he's doing his best to confuse his opponent, it looks like, who does hide a Ling in the main base to be able to get a future scout off, and a proxy base out for Neutrophil in the top side of the map. So we do have a third base coming down for Dark Menace. At a pretty even parity there. So a little bit of a weird build coming out for Neutrophil for sure. We do have a Baneling Nest on the way for Dark Menace, whereas it is a Roach Warren immediately for Neutrophil, making that lair as well. Dark Menace's Ling does make it out, but likely will not scout the hidden third base of Neutrophil, as it's in a pretty weird spot. It would seem Neutrophil has figured out that the key to playing random is to just make a random proxy base with your off races and question mark profit. Now, there's almost no units out for Neutrophil, who is finishing off this Evo chamber. We'll be able to get some damage on the Queens, potentially. No, actually, Dark Menace looks at it at almost the exact right time. We'll be able to kill 2 drones for it, so that actually makes that Evo chamber pretty much fully worth it. There is a wall off done now, but does force out several Evo chambers from his opponent, who now makes a spine crawler as well. So decent little pressure, not a whole... Oh my gosh, Dark Menace has scouted the proxy base. This is super unfortunate. If you're Neutrophil, who throws out the okay. Yeah, proxy bases against Zerg work the least out of any proxy bases, I'd say, because we love to just kind of, you know, take a handful of Overlords and just fling them out over the map, and wherever they land is wherever they land. So he does manage to scout that. There are some Roaches coming out, but they're just going to get immediately doinked as soon as they pop. A Spire now being swapped into by Neutrophil, but this has definitely put him in a rough position. 3 Spine Crawlers coming down, though. Dark Menace very worried about the attack follow-up for Neutrophil. Just now starting up another round of drones. It will be 7 drones, though. And he already does have a worker lead. So he'll be in an alright position. This Spire is actually not going to be super useful, as he's still only on 2 gases, is not adding on his gases in his natural base, so that's not a whole lot of gas income to make Mutalisks with. So Spire's already almost finished up. And Overlord speed on the way for Dark Menace. He says, okay, you're playing like a weirdo, I'm going to scout you. And should be able to get a full scout off. Overlord speed may even finish up in time to finish this Overlord, which would be nice for him. And not quite. Nope, it does finish up in time. Overlord should make it away scot-free. Lings do try and find the third base of Neutrophil, get some good damage on it, and should be able to make it out without losing their lives too much, at least. And indeed they do. Spire's done, but nothing's coming out from it. Finally, we see some Mutalisks starting out, but it's only 4. There are 4 Queens out for Dark Menace, which will be able to at least initially defend against the Mutas. And if we see Muta versus Muta here, Dark Menace is going to have a lot more gas. He is getting to his Mutas later, but he's going to have a way bigger gas income, at least for the moment. As he is dropping a Spire of his own, making lots of Lings. And here you thought LOL meant laugh out loud. Mutalisks are now coming across the map. They should be able to clear out a lot of Overlords, as Dark Menace has a big spready going on. Lings do see the Mutalisks. But the Mutalisks are just heading straight across the map. These look goofy, dude. This skin looks so goofy. I kind of like it. I'm kind of a fan. Spore Crawlers are starting up in the bases. The Mutalisks just getting some drone damage, but I mean, you're down 12 workers. Killing 5 to 10 drones is not going to make these Mutalisks worth it. He needs to get a lot more damage than just that. Dark Menace drops the Spore Crawler in a little bit of an external position. Not the greatest. Will allow the Mutalisks to sneak past and kill a lot more drones. Definitely not positioning those spores in the best spot, and does get a full scout off on the Spire as well. But a massive Link Flood is coming across the map. Big army for Dark Menace. Should be able to clear out the army on the ground for Neutrophil and even kill this third base as it's gone completely unscouted. There's nothing there to defend as Neutrophil is actually heading across the map himself, but with 6 Mutalisks on the way, he's got 3 Spine Crawlers there, and the counterattack hitting for Dark Menace before it hits for Neutrophil. Even manages to get through that wall off. Big damage is going to be coming down here. The Mutalisk trading against the Spore Crawlers before the Mutalisk of Dark Menace even come into play is very unfortunate for Neutrophil here, and I think we're going to see a commanding lead here for Dark Menace in game number 1 as he takes down the remaining Mutalisk for Neutrophil. 30 drones falling. There's only 8 remaining, and they're all falling in the main base as well. Neutrophil has a decently sized army at the third base, but there's a lot of Mutalisks out and nothing to deal with them. Even a wall with some drones held positioned in front of it to keep him from getting in for as long as possible. And it really doesn't matter how many drones are lost for Dark Menace here, as there's nothing that's ever going to be able to clean up the army on the other side of the map for Neutrophil. It looks like Dark Menace will be able to take at least a game off of Neutrophil in game number 1. As there's 0 workers and only 18 army supply, GG is called. Pretty interesting game number 1 out of our players there. Neutrophil going mind game after mind game after mind game. Just swapping back, forth, left, and right. Unfortunately, the proxy base getting scattered, I think, was it was at the most inopportune time for him, where it cost him the most to swap strategies, but doesn't allow him to get any damage done, really. So a little unfortunate there. We will be heading to Hardwire for game number 2. And Neutrophil's going to swap into Terran, maybe. That's what he's got selected at the moment. Neutrophil is suggesting they both off-race, and it looks like they're going to. It's going to be a Terran versus Protoss for Dark Menace, being Protoss, of course. Oh, but now Dark Menace is complaining that Neutrophil is too good at Terran, and it's not going to be fair if he plays Protoss. But it looks like he's sticking with the game plan nonetheless.
I think ET, he saw what happened to Instability losing to Neutrophil's Terran, right? So then maybe he's thinking,
That's true, but as long as you look for a proxy base, I think he'll do all right against Neutrophil's Terran.
Exactly. That's a good point.
We'll see. I would be chagrined if we don't see a lot of probe scouting out of Dark Menace. I'll just say that. Whether or not Neutrophil does go for the proxy base, you got to be worried about it here, I'd imagine. But here we go.
You are watching FSL Season 5.
All right, we're starting off here in the bottom left of Hardwire LE. We have our orange Protoss player. He is
Dark Menace.
And in the top right, the red Terran player. He is
Neutrophil.
all right, so it's going to be a TVP. And Dark Menace warning Neutrophil that he better win, or else he's never going to live this down, I guess.
Shades of Scarlet versus Dongregу.
Yeah, a little bit. If only Dongregу had swapped to Terran, maybe he would have been able to win there too. But we'll see what happens here. As no proxies out of either player just yet. Quick probe scout coming out for Dark Menace. I can't imagine that Neutrophil proxies a base here in the face of what happened last game, and with the awareness that Dark Menace is probably aware of what happened in the series against Instability. And Neutrophil is going out for a scout, does drop that supply depot to try and deny any information. So we see the cheese emote coming down for Dark Menace. Gateway finishing up. We'll be going for Cybercore first. And a second gas very quickly. So Dark Menace actually, I think, going to try and bring the pain to Neutrophil, which I think the reason that you see so many random players cheese as everything except their main race is because it's hard enough to learn how to deal with all the cheeses that the races can throw at you as one race. And so it is extremely difficult to learn macro as all 3 races, because now suddenly you have 9 different matchups worth of cheese to worry about as opposed to just 3. And so I think we are going to see a little bit of a cheesy start out of Dark Menace here, who is majorly supply blocked. Yeah, extremely majorly supply blocked. I would like to see him pull a few probes down to the low ground just so he can spend his money on something. It's worth losing that mining time to get that natural base going up a little bit earlier, I think. As there's actually no proxy, so Dark Menace, I guess, just going for a quick 2-gas, maybe not going to go for any sort of attack. I'm a little surprised by that. We do have a second gateway now coming down, but there's a Reaper across, and this supply block is so painful for Dark Menace here. We'll be able to kill 1 probe. Reaper firing away at more. Good pullback out of Dark Menace on the damaged probes. Good micro here. Oh, but a little bit slow on the pull with that probe, which means it will fall, and I think Dark Menace may even lose a 3rd here. And indeed he does. Trying to Citizens arrest the Reaper a little bit, but unable to, so it should be able to make it out scot-free. Indeed it does. Jumping on away. Happy as can be. So definitely a great start for Neutrophil here, as Dark Menace is floating a casual 800 minerals before his natural base even starts. And a nice little setup going on for Neutrophil on the other side of the map. The tech just now dropping for Dark Menace. Definitely, well, you know, it's not his main race, so somewhat to be expected here. Warp Gate is now finishing up, which is nice. Starting to be able to spend that money a little bit more, but definitely not the greatest start for him here. As we might see a fast Burrow Widow Mine drop or something along those lines here. As we do have Widow Mines coming out on a reactor or a tech labbed factory, which is a little rare to see in TVP. But we do expect some non-standard things out of players when it's not their main race, so not too shocking. 3rd gateway is going to drop. Robo nearly done, and the Reaper hiding in the bottom side of the net. Perhaps looking for another probe or 2. Oh, will find the Widow Mine and may be able to kill it for free here. Nope, does not opt to go for it. Instead warps right into the middle of the welcoming arms of a bunch of angry workers. 2 SCVs do fall, but for 2 Adepts and the Widow Mine making it away. A little unfortunate there, to be sure. Observer now on the way, and it's not going to be a Widow Mine drop. He's just going into tanks behind this. I think the Widow Mine is too shocked that it's even alive to burrow at this point. But we have a big attack coming out very quickly. I think this is a bit of an unfortunate setup here for Neutrophil, as he's going for a big attack against someone who went 3-gate Robo, which is about the biggest no, don't attack me build you can do in this matchup. As there's going to be a lot of units available for Dark Menace. He's not even close to supply blocked either, so be quite nice for him. Oh, but does get a free Stalker who actually kills the Widow Mine as he's dying. What a Chad. The tank does move up and siege, but there is a shield battery that needs to be protected here. Dark Menace, though, obviously not fully up on defense as Protoss, so if he lets these gateways get depowered, that could actually be really bad for him here, and indeed he does, and then he goes in after there's nothing left to defend. So unfortunate here for him. Definitely falling apart a little bit, I'd say, and the mind game, I guess. I don't know if you call it much of a mind game to say, hey, go for the race you're not good with. I guess that's some sort of a mind game. Has paid off for Neutrophil, as Dark Menace not looking to be in a great position here. The tank shelling away, killing lots and lots of Stalkers, and even if this army's cleaned up at this point, that's still a big win for Neutrophil, who's got a 2nd tank coming in now. 3rd base on the way. And +1 is going to be done soon. The tank's not sieged up, though. A little unfortunately, there is an Immortal out now, which should be able to kill that tank, maybe? Oh, it gets body blocked by the other Protoss units, so it's not able to kill it. He's trying to drop down to get these siege tanks. Does manage to find one of them. But the Marines able to kill one of the gateways, going to be able to take down another one as well, and a third tank is moving in. And Neutrophil is just looking to be in a great spot here in game number 2. So we likely will see a game 3 here. Or do I speak too soon? Kind of doubt it, but we'll see. As Darkman is trying to micro his units in and out of his Warp Prism, but even if he does clean up here, as I said, there's a big upgrade advantage, there's a big economy advantage, there's a third base done, extra barracks already going down, stim packs on the way. And on the flip side of things, he has a Twilight Council in charge, which is nice, but it's just going to be too many units for this Iron player, I feel. War Prism is trying to find that tank, I think, so that he can break out. Should have enough to be able to break out here. I think Neutrophil is maybe overstaying his welcome a little bit. It shouldn't end up hurting him too much at the end of the day, but no. Medevac comes into the perfect timing, so never mind. Get out of overcommitment free card, I guess you could call it. And a 4th base dropping for Neutrophil as well. So a very well-engineered attack there. Worked out quite nicely for him. Dark Menace was able to keep most of his probes alive, so we'll be able to saturate his natural base, but it's going to be 2 bases to 4 here shortly. And he's going to be down 2 upgrades and a whole lot of economy and army. Although I guess I should say, Neutrophil has not saturated his 3rd base at all yet, but there are still the mules from it, which is a significant enough advantage already, I feel. +1 armor going to be finished up in time for this attack that's coming out for Dark Menace. He's down 12 army supply at the moment. Pretty much just relying on the power of charge lots here, but with lots of tanks set up in good positions and the ability to just float this command center away as there is a whole other expansion coming down. Not looking the best for this attack. Zealots don't do great against floating buildings, quite unfortunately. Dark Menace. Oh, some mules do drop. May be able to find those. However, there's enough Marines with stem and combat shields that they may be able to just clean this army up single-handedly, especially with that 1-1 advantage. I guess no combat shields. Yeah, my bad. Soon to be combat shields. Dark Menace does look to do a drop in the main base. And a counter drop on the other side of the map for Neutrophil does kill 7 probes, which is a nice start for him there. To that drop, should be able to make it away scot-free, as well as there is no blink out for the Protoss player, who's now going into a robo facility, but down 40, almost 50 supply. A lot of turrets finding the Warp Prism as well. Only 2 Zealots make it out. That's so unfortunate there for Dark Menace. And the Zealots not even able to kill really anything, as they were kind of just running willy-nilly, hitting this SCV and then running over and over and hitting that SCV and running over and hitting the other SCV and back and forth and on and on. A big army for Neutrophil. I think is probably not sure when to move out at this point, but definitely could, I would say. He's got a lot of tanks, he's got a lot of Marines, and there's no splash damage out for his opponent yet. So these Marines are sort of just chilling here next to these gases. We'll be able to kill a gas and a probe. And once the Zealots make it over here, potentially make it out alive. Maybe not. Stalkers do manage to take it down. That's nice for Dark Menace. That's a good start. Still such a big economy for Neutrophil. I think that's what it really comes down to a lot of times. Is like, sure, you may not know the right builds for your off races, but I think Neutrophil is kind of compensating for that in the right way, and there's really 2 ways to handle it. One is cheese, and one is just like throw your macro at it, and that'll get you pretty far without knowing a thing about how to play that race. And so just getting up a ton of bases and a lot of economy, a lot of production to compensate for not necessarily knowing the exact best builds or having everything down pat. And it's working out for him really well here, as he's up 151 supply to 91. Looking to move towards that 3rd base of Dark Menace as well. Scans the counterattack of Zealots that's moving out here. There is a Disruptor, which is nice. Disruptors are actually a little better against Marauders than they are Marines, as Marines are fast enough to pretty much outrun them, as long as you're on top of things. And a little bit easier to split as well, but I'm not really expecting any splits here. 3 siege tanks on the way at a time. Tanks are such a pain to deal with as Protoss, especially whenever you're already down in supply like this. And oh man, GG is called. Wow. The as I said, the mind game of play a different race working out quite well for Neutrophil there. It does manage to take the game there. An exciting game for sure. Good execution out of Neutrophil, and Dark Menace, I'd say just a little bit unversed in the ins and out of dealing with those sorts of aggressions as a Protoss, which can hardly blame him. That means we will go into game 3 here. Will not be a 2-0 in either direction. And a good series so far. We'll see. We've seen Terran and Zerg out of Neutrophil. We'll see if he goes back into straight random or if he goes Protoss, something along those lines.
Yeah, while we're waiting, guys, just want to highlight the Patreon supporters we got so far. It's Cyan, the VIP Patreon, Hyper Turtle, VIP Patreon, of course, Rogue Ranch, the All Access Patreon. So, Patreon. There you go. Patreon, not Patreon, but it is with Patreon. So, thank you guys for supporting Storm and FSL.
Yeah, big thanks to everyone putting their money in each month to help improve this tournament and be able to do some cool things for the viewers as well. And it is going to be Berlingrad LE. It looks like it's going to be a TVZ to end things out. So no Protoss out of Neutrophil in this series, which is obviously his main race. And a TVP, which I don't know that anyone was really expecting here, but I'll take it. And we are going to be starting. It's going to be Berlingrad LE for our final game of the night. Here we go.
You are watching FSL Season 5.
All right, in the bottom right-hand side of Berlingrad LE, we have our orange Zerg. He is
Dark Menace.
And his opponent, the red Terran player, he is
Neutrophil.
So, it all comes down to a TVZ with Dark Menace doing a triple extractor trick once again. So I guess that's his preferred opening against random players, as Zerg at least. Obviously, the triple assimilator trick, not quite as beloved. We're going to see a 16 pool out of Dark Menace, or 17 pool, with some interesting little cancels there. A quick SCV scout coming out for Neutrophil. Should see this coming, though, unless it's moving out to proxy, which it looks like it may be based on its movement here. So perhaps we're going to see some sort of proxied Reapers. We've seen him do this as Terran. Oh, actually proxy base, I guess. Could be a proxy base as well. Drone does see what's happening here. Okay, and it will be a proxied barracks, not a proxied base after all. There's no... Or actually, sorry, there is a gas, so we will see 2 Racks Reaper, it looks like, out of Neutrophil here. Dark Menace going a gasless expansion pool first, so he should have out a good number of queens to defend against this sort of build if he knows it's coming. But I think he might go for a very quick third base, which is actually pretty solid against this because Reapers are not very good against buildings. They're good against drones. So they're able to deny you taking a third base in the first place, but they're not as good at denying a third base once it's down. And indeed, quick third coming down. Laying speed will be delayed, so it'll be mostly a queen and spine crawler defense of these Reapers as a third barracks on the way. I think a little late, perhaps over making some SCVs, but no big deal. I think Dark Menace has a good chance here against this with that pool first. He's got out a good number of lings. He's got out a queen. He's making another queen. He can continue making more and more of those as time goes on. Reapers jumping directly up into the main base. But the queen is there to greet them. Dark Menace pulls back the first Ling. Reaper does get a few hits and then pulls away. So we do have more and more Reapers pumping across the map. Ling speed should be able to start any moment now. Dark Menace so chooses. Instead, he's making a spine crawler. He's got a whiff of what's going on, I think. And the Reaper's now fighting the queen, double grenading her. Able to get her down to half HP already. And the Reapers will heal their damage much faster than the queen will. As I think there could be another queen coming down soon. It's injecting in the main base. You kind of want to save those for transfuses, but no biggie. Does Spore Trick. Keep that drone alive for as long as possible. Just keep Spore Tricking over and over. Queens do go into the main base to help defend against these Reapers. Once this spine is up, it should help as a major anchor point. Oh, almost gets that Reaper, but it will get away, it looks like. But Ling speed on the way, 18 Lings on the way as well. And 3 Racks Reaper is very committed, especially when one of the barracks is proxied on the other side of the map, as it is in this scenario here. There's multiple Queens out now. There are a lot of Lings. They don't have speed, but there's a Spine Crawler coming down as well. Does kill 1 Reaper, which is nice. Forces back the other Reapers, and is going to be able to catch one that has a bad rally point. Command Center is now dropping down, but there's 3 bases up for Dark Menace already. Sure, you're down a little bit in workers, but that's sort of to be expected in this scenario. So we're 5 seconds away from Ling speed. And with that 3rd base already done, it'll be pretty easy to catch up in workers whenever you, so desire, really. Neutrophil's grenades missing a little bit on the Lings, but no biggie. It's trying to micro against these. Should be able to kill the rest of the Lings pretty easily. And just take some damage there, but we'll be able to catch 2 more Reapers for free. Does Dark Menace? Well, not quite free. Neutrophil smartly catches a Creep Tumor out there before he loses the Reapers, so getting a little bit of value even out of that mistake. Very nice for him. He's continuing to produce Reapers, not swapping over into, like, Bio with, like, Stim and Combat Shields yet, which is okay. He'll get there, I am sure. More barracks coming down. Might just be a big follow-up push. With Mass Reaper and maybe some tanks or Medivacs or something to support behind it. He does have a 2nd base, but it's going to be hard to get much mining with that, with Speedlings already out. And just Reapers to defend. Does kill that Creep Tumor as well quite nicely. And is able to deny the mining here on this 3rd base for Dark Menace, who isn't doing a whole ton to establish it. He's just sending Lings across the map, and they are falling to the wall off. Making 22 more Lings. If he can catch all of these Reapers, that would be quite nice for him. The Reapers spam out grenades, but leave the Creep Tumor at 1 HP, which is quite unfortunate for him there. The Lings keep getting caught in small numbers. You really just have to build up an overwhelming force of like 30 or 40 Zerglings, and then go for the kill. So once you get that surround, the Reapers will die. One of the Queens does get caught by the Lings. By the Reapers. Goodness. Ling counterattack on the other side of the map will prevent the mining there, and a big wraparound on all the Reapers of Neutrophil. He loses a ton of them. That is now 14 Reapers going down, only 6 remaining. He had about 15 at that point. Now swapping over to the Bio is going to lose even more Reapers, it looks like. They're trying to make it to the cliff. Maybe one will go down, but with some... Okay, some misclicks, but does manage to get those anyways. The Spine Crawler in the main base should defend against that nonetheless. And a Baneling Nest coming down. Perhaps just going to go for a massive Baneling bust here is Dark Menace, which I think should work here. As there's only a few units out for Neutrophil at this point. A lot of which are Reapers, which are not the most helpful in this scenario. They're a harassment unit, not a defense unit or a front-on engagement unit. As we are going to see a ton of Banelings getting morphed. 9 more drones on the way, though, so even if he does not manage to kill Neutrophil outright here, should be able to get quite a bit of damage done regardless. And then can macro out of it with 38 drones already. 11 Banelings on the way. Neutrophil making 4 bunkers, so is somewhat aware of what's going on here. 11 Banes coming out. There's only 1 tank, though. should be able to kill quite a few Banes before they can crash into the barracks and the supply depots. But once again, even if this attack does not kill Neutrophil here, Darkman is still in a pretty strong position. So he does go up in now. Tries to split up the Banelings a little bit. Does manage to bust through. And a couple Banelings remaining do blow up on the tank and the bunkers. The bunkers should fall before the SCVs can get there to repair, possibly. A big hit there. A decent trade overall. Not the greatest. Kills a couple SCVs, maybe. Kills a tank. Kills some bio. And 32 more Lings on the way. One Baneling morphing in behind the mineral line of Neutrophil, who is now trying to counterattack across the map, but with 32 more Lings pouring out and racing across the map. I think those units are just going to get caught and killed. So a little bit of a mistake of a move out there. And yes, indeed, the units are getting fully caught. Do manage to make it into the medevac, but the tank is going to be found. And that's that staying power for the army going down there. There is a hidden base for Neutrophil in the top of the map, but it's a little bit late compared to a lot of his other hidden bases, so I'm not sure it's going to end up mattering too much at the end of the day. Oh, and no units are actually being produced at home, which means the Lings are going to be able to bust through this wall off and kill every single SCV that ever existed, and I think we're actually going to see a 2-1 victory here out of Dark Menace. He's doubling the supply of his opponent, plus a bit. He's got a massive economy here, lots of units, tons of production, is cleaned up on the other side of the map as well. And with the Banelings now waddling in towards those exposed SCVs, I think that may be all she wrote. As the tank does get surrounded by the Lings. Not enough repair there. And even the Marines going down as well. GG is called.
All right. What a game. What a series. Seth, what do you think?
Well, they did say they want to have fun, so all right. I hope that was a lot of fun playing Terran and Zerg, and we didn't see Neutrophil in his main race as Protoss, but I guess we'll expect that in the playoffs. But let's talk to Neutrophil first. Neutrophil, looks like you went a little too hard on the Reapers there on game number 3. Were you just too committed all in there to transition? Or, what was the plan there?
So I felt like I had enough Reapers to kind of finish the game, so I wanted to kind of go all in on that. I was kind of setting up the transition, but I didn't really go through with it until it was kind of too late.
Gotcha. I mean, you kept the Reapers alive for a long time until, there's that one surround there where you got distracted in your front, and then you lost all the Reapers. And I think from that point on, it was already a foregone conclusion. But are you going to be playing Protoss when the playoffs comes, or are you just really going to refine your Terran strategies and keep going on with Terran?
I think it really depends kind of how my Terran games go for the rest of the season. I'll probably play a couple Protoss games, especially if it's against Dark Menace in the playoffs. But yeah, I'm going to keep mixing it up.
Gotcha. ET, do you have any questions?
Let's see. So yeah, game 2, obviously a pretty well prepared attack there. Went pretty much as expected. Were you kind of worried when you saw the amount of gateways and everything that he might have too many units to overwhelm you initially, or were you pretty confident going in with that Marine tank attack in game 2?
I was kind of scanning to the left of his base, so he would think I'm coming from the left. I wasn't actually paying attention to his gateway count, so I didn't really notice that. But I felt pretty confident that game, especially since I was able to get some earlier pressure off.
Okay. All right. I think that's all the questions I had.
AJ?
Nah, it looks like you're having fun with Terran. Just a few mechanical things here or there to make it really formidable. I don't think I've seen Dark Menace lose to a Terran, even just one game in a while, right? So it was very close.
Yep. Yeah, like we said, it's still just a regular season, but this puts Dark Menace in a good position here to battle against instability for that number 1 seed. Neutrophil's not out of it. He's still 2-1. He only has 1 loss as well. But there's a lot of games to be played. But let's talk to our winner. Good game, good job, Dark Menace. tell us about that game number 2 Protoss, though. It doesn't look like you were as comfortable as you could be playing Protoss, but what prompted you to play Protoss in that game number 2?
Well, to be honest, we're kind of joking about it before that we both go off race. So, but I agreed if I win the first game, I'll go off race because I don't want to be behind to play this guy.
Okay, so I guess that was just a throwaway game off race. Do you have any plans in the future to play more off race games?
No, not at all, because
Not
I'm
at
kind of
all.
embarrassed how bad I played in that game.
Yeah, because at the Code S level where you had 800 minerals and your natural was blocked for the longest time there, it doesn't seem like you're as comfortable like I said, but your Zerg is formidable. Your Zerg is really on point. One thing we noticed though, you like to open with that 3 gas, well, that extractor trick, right? It's that your opening strat all the time. What makes you like that opener?
So I can just like scout for cheese and I'm not that economically behind and I can get a quick pull.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's
ET,
like
do you have any
this
questions?
thing. It's this thing where you have 16 drones mining, even though you sent an early drone out. So I think that's the reason for it.
Gotcha. ET, do you have any questions here for Dark Menace?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, like I said in the game 1, it looked like he was just trying to outdo Neutrophil's 2 extractor trick. But game 3, were you kind of worried when you saw it was like a mass Reaper strategy, or do you feel pretty comfortable against that strat?
Game 3? Well, to be honest, I actually knew he would do that, because, like, he only's done 2 things against me, and that's the Reaper proxy and, 3x proxy, but, like, I don't know, I kind of played bad against that, really, the entire game.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right. I think that was all the questions I had, KJ.
Yeah, he's so comfortable against it that even though he played bad, he really is fine. Um, but knowing it's a Terran, right? I think that's his best matchup right now. Do you think that's the case, Dark Menace? ZVT is your best matchup?
Well, yeah, but I definitely think Zerg's the best matchup, because I don't have
Oh,
any
that's right.
picks.
Your ZVZ is pretty good. So actually, just to let you guys know, he has beaten my Zerg too. So his ZVZ is pretty good. And my Zerg is at Masters 2, Masters 1 level, so it's happened. I don't know, but that's one of those mirror things, right? That can happen, especially ZVZ. So, but yeah, nice job. What are you looking forward to the rest of the season?
I guess just my rest of my games.
All right. Well, there you go. Nice job, guys. It was fun to watch. And let's take a look at the standings, Seth and ET.
Yeah, it should be updated. It's the benefit of ET casting. I get to just sit back, relax, and update the standings as soon as it's done. But yeah, if we take a look at the standings, let's go back to our first game of the night in Code A. Right now, if we look at Code A, it's still have the 4-win Little Reaper, but he does have 2 losses there. And we have 2 undefeateds, which is the Archaic and Criminal, which is going to be facing off against each other next week. So that's going to be the battle of the undefeateds. Only one will remain undefeated. That's going to be a pretty cool game. But that's our top 4 right now. Little Reaper, the Archaic, Cyan, and Criminal. Those are the 4 favored to make it to the playoffs. And that's a pretty cool group to see in the playoff bracket. And then we had our 2v2 games. Won by Kodeo against the Blind Leading the Death. The Blind Leading the Death unfortunately drops to under 500, so they're 1-2. But you know what? They got their 3 hardest games out of the way already. Looking forward to their games against the rest and see if they can make a push for the playoffs. But right now, Kodeo is up in the standings with the 3 wins, but not too far behind Little Dom and GG Izzy, so they're going to be fighting for this number 1 seed. And then finally, we got Code S being led by Instability with 4 wins, only 1 loss. Right behind her, we have Freedom, who's going to be playing a lot more pretty soon here because he only has 3 games and no losses.
And I'll be playing the top players. So that 3-0 record is not against the top players.
Yeah, it's actually your next game is not for a while, and that's gonna be against instability, and so that's gonna be a good
It's a good one.
game, yeah, to really solidify who's gonna be on top of that division. So, and yeah, so that's what happened. That's our standings. We have if you look at our game this Friday, upcoming games, we're finally gonna see Code B players, Kitty Cat and Cloak. We haven't seen Cloak in a while. It's because the Code B players, it takes a while for them to cycle through our schedule. And then we have Criminal, who hasn't played in a bit, but he's going to be facing off Hyper Turtle. And then Frieden, Mizell, again, Hurtin Time, Neutrophil. So, like I said, these are the playoff push. This is the second half of the season, and you got to start getting these victories in. We want to make it to the playoffs.
That's right, guys. It's gonna be really cool to watch. So pay attention, keep practicing, and check out the VODs on YouTube if you guys want to study your opponents. That's what you want to do. It's automatically there right after the broadcast. So that'll do it for tonight, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks, ET, for casting, as usual.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you guys this Friday. The big matches. Later, guys.
GG's.
Yeah. There's enough carriers here to require you to...
He might, yeah, I think Fenrir might get overrun here. And look at that, he
might.
actually activates the prismatic alignment, kills the turrets so quickly.
Okay, there you go. So, Miss Uber XL is not going to be scared going into a choke. She will throw it in there. Unlike Chinpo. Here we go.
Gonna shove it in there.
Oh, is there enough Marines? There was, and now...
I think there is, yeah. And so this is the problem.
No Storm.
These are 3 Marines, right? And I think he got to the critical mass right before the 200 supply, and right there, Mrs. Uber Excel's supply just plummets.
Okay, let's see what she rebuilds with here, because she has not made anything. She was kind of looking at it the whole time while it was dying, and if she loses this. So we'll see. This is the biggest Doom drop I have ever seen in the history of StarCraft 2. How many medevacs is that? And I'm assuming all of them are full. That's 15 medevacs?
Are full. Now, if this flies into a bunch of Void Rays and does a prismatic alignment, you'd lose all of them so quickly.
I don't know.
But
Yeah, I don't know. She's... Oh!
There it is!
Well, the Void Ray is too far. I think she let him...